Now, for the past few years, it's not been easy, both locally and globally. And you can agree with me that the times have been quite difficult. When you get on Twitter, watching news, Facebook, and the various media platforms that we have, you can tell that people are dissatisfied with the way things are going. In specific, how the government is making various decisions, how institutions are being conducted across, some of the choices that people are making on our behalf. Indeed, it is not an easy season that we are in. And it makes me think today, will this come to an end? Will there a time come when we will not have some of the struggles and the issues we keep on contending with day in, day out, and especially with the government and the leaders that are in place? The truth of the matter is that we are a product of our thoughts, we are a product of our belief, we are a product of the choices that we make. Now, looking at the men and women who are making these choices, it is very easy for you and I to complain or to grumble or to point them out and call them out with all sorts of names we may want to. But the truth of it all is that how about you and I choosing to make a difference right where we are? Somebody said, and which I tend to believe so, that even if it means getting some young people in those positions may not necessarily make a difference, because as the word of the Lord clearly tells us, our hearts and our minds are broken, and until the heart of a man is transformed, then it's an exercise in futility. In specific, one of the stories I love is about a young boy. Yes, a boy, 8 years of age. His name was Josiah. Now you get to read about his story in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 22, all the way from chapter 22 to chapters 23. It's a very interesting story of this young boy who ruled in the nation of Judah for a whole 31 years. Now, what captures me is what is mentioned in verse 2. It says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed completely the ways of his father David, not turning aside or to the left. Now, one thing you must embrace at this moment is that Josiah was coming in at a time when God was fed up with the nation of Judah. Now, the king before him, by the name Manasseh, is said in the chapters 21, he had done what was the most evil practice at that very particular time. In fact, he is considered as one of the worst kings who ever lived. Two things he did that angered God and was outrightly wrong. Number one, he brought idols into the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. And secondly, he introduced a child sacrifice. And at that time, they would sacrifice to the god of Molech. Now, that was a detestable practice in the eyes of God. But right here, Josiah shows up, and what was the turning point for this young boy is that at some point in his journey as a king, he came across the book of the law. And I would just love to read that portion in verse 10. The Bible says, then Shaphan the secretary informed the king, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read it from the presence of the king. It says this in verse 11, when the king had the words of the book of the law, he tore his robes. He gave these orders to Hilkiah the priest, Ahikam son of Shaphan, Akbor son of Micaiah, Shaphan the secretary, and Asaiah the king's attendants, go and inquire of the Lord for me, for the people and for all Judah, about what is written in this book that has been found. And the reality of it is that after the report came back, he turned to the Lord. He turned to the Lord. In fact, it is rightfully said that he went ahead and brought about religious reforms and removed the Canaanite influence upon the nation of Judah. He made a difference, and just because of that, his life was spared. Yes, by this time, Judah was way far gone, and there is no way that God would have left them off the hook. In fact, when you read in the scriptures, it's very, very clear from verses 18 onwards. The man of God comes and gives this message and says, you know what? God will spare you. God will spare you because you humbled yourself before me and chose to do the right thing. The call of action for us today is that even amidst the detestable sacrifices, the pain, the corruption, the injustice that indeed we are in, God is waiting upon you and I to make that difference, to turn to him, to ask ourselves, what is it that God would want us to do? What step that would God want us to take in such a time as this? And I believe when we do that, the Lord will spare you. The Lord will have mercy on us. God bless you, and see you next time.